Fantastical. I'm going to turn off my video because my bandwidth goes. So I'm just going to shut my video off. Y'all are welcome to do whatever you want to do.
Don't lose the puppies.
I'm not going to lose the puppies. I'm just turning off my video. But you're funny. I can't even figure out how to turn off my video. It's great. It's great. Okay. So everyone can see the screen. Dale, is it you or me or Squire? Who's kicking this off?
I think Squire, I'm on chat duty today.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll kick it off. All right, everybody. Welcome to this week's fun adventure at MVP Office Hours. Dale Ziegler, Joy. I can never.
Shutters Helbing.
Shutters Helbing. Sorry, it's always just Joy to me. And Squire Kirshner here to help try to get things solved and resolved. As always, you're welcome to participate in any way you feel you're comfortable. Just a quick walkthrough for the slide deck. We've all the events that Salesforce is currently holding can be accessed at admin.salesforce.com. All events. The Success event calendar is on that bit.ly link. This slide deck is available on the Success community. So if you're needing these links, they're there. And always use Trailhead for all your things, including the calendar for the Trailhead web events. There's a bunch of events coming up, and there's a calendar for that as well. Things are in constant flux, as I'm sure you're aware. The big one is this weekend, Virtual Dreaming, 24 straight hours of awesome content starting at, I believe, 10 o'clock Central and going until 10 o'clock on Sunday. So check that out, register. It's a mini Dreamforce. It's going to be awesome. Dreamolay, Southeast Dreamin', and Upstate Dreamin' are all still scheduled to occur in the next couple months, but stay tuned. The links are there. And of course, make sure that you're a member of the Success community, signing up for these meeting invites as well as all others through the Trailblazer Community Group portal. And there's a quick doc that is keeping track of virtual meetups as well. So lots of ways to stay connected and engaged.
My hope is on the anything after like 10 or 11 p.m. on Virtual Dreamin' that they lift the FCC language filters and it's just, just go. Just say whatever you want and go.
I think they have Steve Mo scheduled for 1 a.m., so I'm sure that's part of the deal, yeah.
There you go.
Also remember that there are MVP office hours happening across the globe. The EMEA and the Portuguese ones are happening the last Thursday of each month. And I know for Portuguese specifically, you don't have to speak Portuguese to participate. Just the focus is there, and Carlos is great. So join and ask your questions there as well. Reminder for participants, please keep yourself on mute whenever possible. It just helps with the feedback and the conversation that's going on, but that doesn't mean you can't pipe up and be part of it. Everyone needs to participate. Everyone needs to help because we all grow and succeed together. Solving those problems together is important. Introduce yourself. Feel free to raise your hand or type your question into the chat to keep us on cue because there's a lot going on usually, and it's hard to, I should say it's easy to lose one in the crowd. So keep your hand up, keep that comment out there. You can use chat to post resources and links. Don't hesitate to put as much as you want in the chat, and feel free to share your screen. But as a reminder, this is recorded, and as a result, if there's any proprietary information that you shouldn't be sharing over the internets, keep that in mind. Use it, sandbox, use obfuscated data if possible. And with that, let's get a quick call out to the MVPs in the room. Who have we got today?
Let's see. I'm not sure about that list these days, but
well, there's at least 3 of us.
Yeah. We're all MVPs at heart. Doesn't matter.
Exactly. I joke when in consulting agreements when we're supposed to deliver an MVP, minimum viable product. That's me.
Yeah, I showed up, crushed it. Cool. All right. Well, let's get this party started. Small group might be my fault. That's a different conversation. But looks like we've got who's up first?
Marty.
Now, has Marty been on the call in the past?
Marty, why don't you introduce yourself? No. We love Marty.
Yes, we do. Marty, you're still on mute. Go ahead, though.
Thank you for reminding me. I love you too. So I am posting this question in chat because there's kind of a couple of steps in it here. This is the gist of my question. I have a custom object that has fields that have one field has city, one field has state, and I concatenate them. I have another custom object that has city and state concatenated, and it has another code that I need. So I need to look up the concatenated city and state from custom object 1 and bring back the code from custom object 2. And for the life of me, I've had a long week. I cannot figure out how I can do this in a point and click way. I'm not a coder. So if someone says this has to be a trigger that has to be coded, just let me know and I can have someone, I have people that can do that. And just FYI, there are over 40,000 rows in the city and state table, so it's not a minor.
Is
thing.
that city and state table growing all the time, or is it static?
No, it's pretty stable because unless somebody in the country adds a new city, which is possible, but it's pretty stable.
Are the custom objects related to each other?
Not at this moment, but I could
Okay.
make them be. I have total control over the custom objects, which is what I love.
Okay, so you have custom object 1 that has city and state,
Correct.
and you have custom object 2 that has city, state, and a code.
Yes.
Okay.
And I had to concatenate the fields because obviously there are states that have the same city name. So
Springfield.
Exactly.
I love the town.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know my gut, but I don't know enough about the underlying detail to know for sure. I mean, I feel like this is custom metadata 101, but I don't know if that's true.
That's a lot of custom metadata though, isn't it?
Well, you can load custom metadata. If it's static, it still works, right?
I mean, in my old days, before I knew about custom metadata, I would say if there's a triggering event that lets you do a process builder and then a flow, and if the cities and the states are the same on the two objects and the data is unique on either object, you just do a lookup to say go grab whatever record from that other object where city equals city and state equals state, and then you have your leverage record to pull whatever other information you need to then carry anywhere else you need to, and that'd be declarative.
Yeah.
So I could do this in Process Builder.
Oh, absolutely.
Process
Okay.
builder into a flow, because you'd have to actually go look up attributes of another object's record if they're not related. Because, I mean, yes, you could relate them, but that might be too dangerous. There might be a reason that they're not related.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm a little curious why you wouldn't let it, like this other child object, would you just allow that object to just look up to your city state lookup and do that work for you?
Well, so let me say one other thing. The basics, all the records for this custom object 1, somebody's going to import a spreadsheet from another source. So they're going to import a spreadsheet so that it's not like they're going to be entering it manually.
Okay.
But the answer is I could do anything I want.
The power is yours.
Yes.
I could, dare I say it, rule the world.
Yes, as long as it works.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, Dale. Marty, are you familiar with custom metadata? Just to close out.
No, I've heard about it a million times, and I really wish someone would explain it in English.
Her name is Jen Lee.
Okay.
She has a laundry list of great videos and
Yes.
explanations. She's your hero for that.
Perfect.
I highly recommend learning more about it because it has so many great applicable uses. Maybe this, but I think Dale's right. Maybe the process is the best way to do that. Process.
Okay. Process with the flow. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
And just for everybody's reference, it's jenwlee.com.
And I think, is there a bunch of stuff in the unofficial Salesforce Flow site too? Don't they have a bunch of metadata stuff there?
Oh, very likely, yeah.
All right.
Unofficialsf.com.
Yeah.
I think we've got Brianna up next, and then Shakira and Rob. So Brianna, if you want to unmute yourself and let us know what's going on.
Yeah, hi there. I have a best practice question. So I built Flow. There's a field that we have called territory. So there's a formula that looks at the country, puts the territory in. And there was a reason that we didn't want to use a formula field that I can't remember now, but so I built a Flow, and it basically just, there's two different fields that it updates. As of now, it is just running when created and updated. It's just an auto launch flow, but it's not launched from a process. And my understanding from many, many internet searches is that there's really no way for me to put the criteria in the flow because I can't use is changed, is new, prior value. So I can't specify which fields it should be looking at. I know that I could do that with a process builder, put the criteria there, and then have it feed into the flow. But I'm wondering if that's necessary. The process builder, we already have 2 on accounts, and they were actually built by partner orgs, and they have to do with integration. So while I could add my piece to them, I just try not to touch them as much as possible. And I know that you're not supposed to have multiple processes for each object. So I just wasn't sure if it was like bad practice. I mean, I've tested in Sandbox, it doesn't seem to be interfering with any other automation or code, but I wasn't sure if it was a bad idea to just have a flow that's running every time any record changes.
So just to put an asterisk on that statement, it is best practice to only have 1 per object, but if you absolutely can't do that, then do the legwork, which it sounds like you have, to make sure that there wouldn't be any conflicts in having multiple per object if it just absolutely can't be built. If that makes you feel any better.
Yeah, there's plenty
Multiple
of
processes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
plenty of orgs with multiple processes that do their job just fine. It's don't feel like that's a hard stop.
Right.
Okay.
Now, as for having a flow running every single time, I mean, if there's a business process to support it, then that's what you do. I think it's more understanding how and why, or why and how. So, are you trying to build? No, is it causing problems? I guess that's my first question.
Based on my Sandbox testing, no, although I often find myself surprised by problems that happen once I deploy. So,
yeah.
So far, no, it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't seem to be interfering with much, the fact that it doesn't have criteria, because it really just talks to 2 fields. And I've checked like the debug logs, and it's not stopping anything else from working. But I didn't want to be running something unnecessarily if that is bad for some reason that I don't understand.
I think the only thing that you potentially run into is if there's a business process reason for having to run that every time, then so be it. It's when you start getting into the amounts of data that you're touching. If you start to hit query limits or anything like that, that's when declarative just isn't tenable, and you do have to potentially switch over to code if the business reason is still there for this to run every time. If you're only doing it 1 record at a time, great, you're within limits, but it's when you start getting into mass amounts of data.
Yeah, sorry, this is Stuart.
Stuart!
The other question is, in Sandbox, it's one thing to test it. In production, there's another question, which is, if you have 1,000, 10,000 users in production, now you've got the potential of users touching that same data, field, and object that you didn't expect in your Sandbox. You also have perhaps an integration with Pardot that is trying to import leads on those same objects and fields that you didn't expect in Sandbox. So there are other potential implementations that are happening and people touching your data that you didn't expect that your process is going to run into and have problems.
Yes, that makes sense. So it sounds like maybe specifying some criteria in a process and pushing the flow through there is just going to be a better bet. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Now, so Robert Wright is posting in the chat before insert flows. I don't know if that's part of a question that he has or if it's potentially an answer, but flows now shifting to essentially being their own triggers might be something to look into as well. If the process builder and is changed criteria, if anything like that becomes problematic, it perhaps takes a calculation step out and maybe gets you closer to what it is that you actually need to try to do.
I'm not sure I understood that suggestion.
That's okay,
I'm
neither
sorry.
did I. That's okay, neither did I. No. With the current process of firing flows automatically, you have to go through Process Builder essentially as a toll gate to evaluate your criteria to then get into the flow to do things. New functionality, either, what is it, spring? I guess it'd be spring or maybe even winter. Flows now have entry criteria baked in them that essentially gets you to before inserting or updating to the database, which is what triggers do traditionally. Now it's in flow. Now that you're taking that process builder step out of the equation, there's a little bit more flexibility for you as the admin to configure when you want that flow to fire, because it's not having to hop through the gate of process builder. It's going straight into the flow when criteria equals X to then evaluate whether or not you actually want or need to fire the flow.
Yeah, so I wasn't able to use the criteria I wanted in a flow because of the formulas that they don't allow you to use that is changed. And
Gotcha.
So right now it is firing right from the flow, but it's just, again, anytime something's edited. So
And then that
I was figuring if I should have criteria, it seems like I have to do that through a process builder.
Then yes, that.
But that would be true for a process or a flow as far as like criteria. It doesn't, a formula doesn't see itself changing like the hard data does, but you should still be able to trigger off of the actual data itself to do the downstream effects, right? Maybe I misunderstood.
In the flow?
Right, so formulas don't cause a change to the trigger because they actually evaluate later in the order of execution. But the formula is evaluating other data that actually has been changed. Is that, and so you were saying that the formula wasn't being shown in the flow?
Yeah, so for example, the territory region field, that's the main thing that gets updated in the flow. If I try to put in a decision, I think is what you would use there, I can put criteria if it's really specific, like the country is US, but I can't put, anytime the country changes, then run this, I'm forgetting the word for the action, the assignment, run the assignment. So the decision doesn't help me specify, there's no way for me that I have figured out to use the decision in flow itself.
I see.
Yeah.
So you should be able to use, that's what I think Robert was getting at, is you can look at the before and after values once you enter the flow. If you use a before flow trigger to basically say, what was it before? Like basically you're evaluating is changed in the flow that way. Because you can evaluate is changed as a formula in like process builder, right? To kick that off.
Right.
So by definition, now with the new flow model of before change, you can get the before and after values to evaluate, I believe.
But it's a formula field specifically that's supposed to be triggering the change, right? Or
no, the country field would trigger the change.
Oh,
in
okay.
this instance, but when I try to use is changed or prior value or anything like that, I get an error message from flow.
Are you using state and country pick lists?
Nope.
Okay.
Interesting.
So when country is changed, which is an open field, it's not. Are you able to share your screen?
Yeah.
I love the blue and the Einsteins, by the way.
Thank you. I had to make my sandbox as different as possible because when we first launched, I kept getting all my orgs confused.
Brilliant.
All right, flows. Yeah, so this is it. I'm just using a formula to, doesn't want to open this, okay. Assign the territory region and the DUNS number based on a different field that's hidden to users. So ideally, I would have criteria that just says, look at the country or look at this hidden field. But if I try to put in a decision, there's
So hold on, let's back up. You're using a formula field in the flow. I think it's the piece I didn't understand. I thought you were talking about using a formula field to actually engage the flow.
No.
Okay,
I apologize.
No, that's okay. So what's in show us the formula, please.
Basically just plopping all the country ISO codes into different regions.
So, topic for another conversation, but I would definitely not do it this way.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
In the process builder, because I mean, it looks like you start your flow and you go straight into an assignment. Are you passing shipping country from the process builder into the flow?
Right now, I don't have a process builder. So the question was if I need one.
Ah, gotcha. So this is where you could potentially, because it's not a formula field, you could do either the before insert, flow before insert, or do a process builder where you say if that country is changed, then run this flow.
Yes.
And actually, you could even, I mean, I hate to solution this too much without knowing more, but you could even have a decision that just says, is the old country equal to the new country? And then that goes to the assignment step. So you're not actually evaluating it in the assignment. You'd have this step before that just compares two variables.
Yeah, because the other thing to think about here is the way you have this set to run every time, and now it makes more sense why doing that might not work, is if you run this every single time, you're going to potentially overwrite data with itself, which is then going to update your last modified. You're going to have frequently recurring updated data, which maybe that's okay, but those system dates can serve value in other places that then gets diminished by a flow that's constantly updating, especially when it's on itself.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess how would I reference the old value?
Yeah. So
That was
and that's
part of
the trick of this. So like you have to have two variables set up, and then in a assignment, basically do an if statement that says if the old value is equal to the new value, then it's true or it's false, and then pass that to the decision.
okay.
And you should be able to do that with. Let's see here. I'm trying to remember how does the whole trigger body get passed to the flow when you start a flow this way? Dale or Stuart, do you remember?
I haven't touched these yet, so I'm out.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to go back to your earliest comment, Dale. I think you're probably better off using a process anyway. I mean, this is such a very unique process. And if you have the criteria written to say, on create, or if the country is changed, you're going to get a very small number of like triggering events that enter the flow, and then you're probably better off anyway. Plus, then you can
Okay.
start iterating on that process as you're like, so like you were saying, you have two processes already from a managed package.
Yes.
So you kind of have already decided that you need a third one that you can use within your org.
Yeah.
With some governance, you can now start building around that one process and say, okay, this is mine. Right. What it does now is this, and as you add to it for other requirements, you also then have a step to confirm that you're not double dipping from the managed ones. But now you've got the framework for going forward, all the other ways you're going to leverage a process.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And maybe Squire, you were touching on this, but by bringing in that new process builder, you could actually not need to go into this flow, because if all you're doing is updating one record in your assignment node there, you're updating two fields on the same object, right?
Yes.
You could only need the process builder to say when country is changed, update two fields. One of them is the result of that formula field. So copy paste that text out of here into the process builder record update. And then whatever the second field was, that's your second field to update in that record update. Because going back to best practice, it's not necessarily best practice to mix your automations. And even though Process Builder is on the Flow platform, Process Builder and Flow are two separate automations. By taking advantage of what Process Builder can do in one fell swoop, you're minimizing risk of failure by saying, okay, I have a process builder that evaluates the criteria to then go into a flow, which, going back to order of operations, things are kind of, they're aligned, but not completely. If you keep it simple and just say, I know a process builder can update a record, even if you have to do a formula to calculate what that gets updated to, do that all in one place. Don't hop out of process builder into flow. Just do it all in process builder.
Okay. So in this case, like no additional value to being able to use the before save and flow.
No, because if you're saying every time that country field gets changed, you need to do this.
Okay.
It's if this, then that. There's no complexity to when. It's if the country's changed, I got to do this. And that's traditional workflow. That's traditional process builder.
Okay.
No needing to get creative with what triggers allow you to do, or the flow before after piece.
Cool. And the formula apparently is a terrible idea. Is there a quick answer to what a better idea would be?
You could do custom metadata. You could go with the similar solution that Marty brought up. Now, if you do this, where all the data lives in an object that has looked like your country code, is that like an ISO code or something?
Yeah.
Then you would have to go into a flow to go call that record. Or can Process Builder call custom metadata?
Yeah.
Yeah, you store it all in a custom metadata type and have the Process Builder pull from that.
Okay.
Because
it's easier to manage and store too that way.
Right. Exactly. Because the downside of the way that you have it, which is actually a common way to do it, it's it's definitely not tenable, is that then takes you as an admin. If that requires an admin resource, no worries, we all got our coworkers. That requires an admin resource to make any updates to those, and one with the skill set to get into Flow or even Process Builder, versus custom metadata type is easier to open up to other users that you trust. That if it's just, oh, we added a country and an ISO code, great. It's not sitting on you, the administrative resource.
I would
Yeah,
even go
that
one
makes
step further and say, by doing it that way, you also don't accidentally break the formula by, as busy as that is. Oh, I need one more ISO code, and you accidentally take a comma out and you don't realize it, and it saves. The whole thing breaks. You don't even know why. So this way, it's all driven by data.
Yep.
Cool. All right.
And a quick follow-up, because Mike asked, you referenced the metadata from the flow builder. So as you're looking up the fields or the objects or any of the other relationships, there's you can, is it like, I believe it starts with $ metadata, possibly. I can't remember if they've changed that, but you can just go look up the metadata table, find your definition, and then pull back the column based on the variable. It's very straightforward. Awesome, Mike. Thank you.
It's very straightforward, but it's one of those that doesn't get overly advertised. Like, you wish it got more publicity.
We'll
Awesome,
look
thank
back
you.
at jenwlee.com for another reference for her. So
We're gonna have to invite Jen W. Lee to come chat with us a couple times.
yeah, she does automation hour. Is that
Right after this.
Yep.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah,
should.
yeah,
all
She's probably doing AV check right now, actually.
You're so right. You're so right. So the second hand up that we had, she actually had to drop off. So I'll try to follow, swing back around through the success community with her and have her repost in the group. But I don't know, Rob, did you have a question about Sandbox, or did you get that taken care of?
Yeah, thanks, Joy. The answer in the chat suffices.
Perfect.
Doesn't please me, but it satisfies the question. Thank you all. Love those surprises.
I hate that feedback. It answers my question, but I don't like it. I just said that to Fitbit like last week. I was like, okay, good.
Come on, Fitbit. I know I took more than 500 steps today. Come on.
For the record, I had 7,000 steps like disappear.
Whoa.
Right, because there was like some manual logging from another system that overrode the actual Fitbit steps. And so they're like, well, it happened at the same time, so we're just going to assume your manual log was right. I was like, no! But I get it. I don't like it. But whatever. So, do we
Right.
have any other questions out there?
I don't see any hands raised or anything in the chat now that I'm circling back to doing my job.
That's okay. I've been monitoring it. We're good.
Thank you.
So
Mike?
I've got a question if no one has any like, oh wait, Mike has his hand up.
Yep.
We got Mike.
When did?
Uh-oh.
I'll
think we're-
set Mike, go for it.
When did data loader become so difficult to load?
Oh,
Well, so which data loader? The traditional Apex data loader or dataloader.io?
Apex, huh?
Apex, because it's a desktop client and yeah. What do you mean load? Like load data or just get installed?
Embedding installed. Yeah.
Installed a computer? Yeah. Or I'm gonna guess, are you on a PC or a Mac?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Barely.
hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Much better.
That's great.
Thank you. Okay. I'm really here. It's just,
Oh, we believe you. We heard pecking.
yeah, Data Loader was a great lightweight tool for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden this thing's bloated and I can't, I got my company firewall blocking it. And
Mhm.
is it just me or did the software change?
I'm gonna conspiracy time with Dale. I'm gonna guess with their acquisition of MuleSoft and the free dataloader.io tool, they're trying to behaviorally shift everybody over to just using that.
Really? That's where your conspiracy went? So my conspiracy theory is going towards Oracle and their takeover of the Java SDK, and the fact that now we have to use this this new JDK, the Zulu Open JDK, in order to run anything on our Windows computers. So I think that it is Oracle's way to give the middle finger to Salesforce.
If it hadn't, oh my God, it goes back to the whole Giants calendar thing.
There are probably 12 different conspiracy theories that we could come up with. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. To install a loader on a PC is it's a Rubik's cube. It's hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say dataloader.io gives you all the same capabilities to get into the second class objects, the config, like all. It really does actually make life a lot easier. It's not much of a reconditioning to do .io, to be honest.
And I've used IO, but I've only got 10,000 records a month on the free version.
Oh.
But I'll make
What
a note
about
of it.
Workbench? I know it's not legitimately supported, but it still works.
Yeah.
I've also used the Jitterbit cloud version, which is also free. It does a fairly good job of mapping and loading data.
I'm going to go back. Yep, Jitterbit. I mean, everything Jitterbit is really good. I'm going to go back to Squire's point about Workbench because you get the added capability of doing single record updates right there in Workbench. You don't have to be in the UI. You have a number of different ways to get your data out, number of different ways to get data in, updated, all of that. It really is a lot more robust than playing with CSVs.
Okay, so then clearly I'm missing something. I think I've used Workbench before, but it was very handy for metadata as opposed to records.
Oh yeah.
So yes, for data, like we were moving reports through Workbench.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole different structure for I got to learn that, how to move the data around. Yeah, that was a different story.
Yeah, there's the query tab. It's all right there. It feels just like Data Loader. It feels just like IO. It's just a web client. It's not. It's pretty intuitive if you've used any of these other tools.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Andrea recommends using the Excel connector for Excel. She loves it. That was me being sarcastic. I'm sorry. And Dale, you commented earlier. Is there a Mac client for Data Loader? I don't think there is.
There
right?
is, and it's a colossal dumpster fire. So I just.
So there isn't then.
Well, it depends. On paper, yes. What kind of paper are you using? Well, a newspaper. Why is the newspaper industry dying? Because.
There you go. There you go.
SQL. Yep.
Yeah. So
I recognize that.
You can get all your data out through there, but then there's also your other functions here. So if I wanted to update a single record on my account object, come on, it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Oh, because it's still thinking. Hold on.
Dale, while you're doing this, can you tell me why at Midwest Dreamin' last year, I was given a rumor that Workbench is no longer supported by anybody?
It never was supported, actually, and that is the fear, is that any day now it could hit end of life, but they've been saying that for a couple of days now. This, even though it has Force and Developer Force in it, this is absolutely 100% not a Salesforce supported tool. So while, and I mean, you even have this big bar across the top here, use dataloader.io. And I'm curious about the unlimited amounts of data. Obviously, they're trying to get you to buy it, which is kind of crap. But I would say use Workbench until you can't.
Yep.
And I remember someone saying, too, that the other risk was because it's so easy to jump into both the metadata and the REST API, it can be destructive without realizing you're doing it. Those other tools kind of stop at data versus metadata. So I don't know how true that is, but I remember hearing that.
I mean, you have to credentialize, you have to authenticate to get in, so it at least knows who you are. But I mean, you're probably an admin profile, so you have the keys to the kingdom. So right there, you can do just about anything. But as long as you're careful with it, you can do very simple operations very powerfully and a lot more quickly because it removes the requirement for a CSV.
For sure.
My life is better. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. We have another question from Marty and Susan Thayer. Yep, Mike, did you get your question answered?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so Marty and then Susan. Marty, you're up.
Whoops. Hi. So my question is there any way to keep blanks at the end of a text field so the end result is a particular number of characters needed to import into another system?
Like a trailing space, you mean?
Yes, exactly.
Say more about what the other system is expecting.
It's AS400, so it's expecting, yeah, I know.
Ugh.
So it's expecting 4 characters.
Gonna party
Sometimes
like it's
I feel that we have
1999.
Boy, yeah, that's a good question.
Could you add a validation rule to always require 4 characters?
No, because it's not input, it's another code from another table. So sometimes it's not an input field.
And it's going.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to ask. It's going from Salesforce to the AS400, or the other way around?
It's going from Salesforce, and then they're going to export to a spreadsheet.
You're just saying all the.
I know, isn't that funny? It's still going to be an improvement over what they do. So,
I mean, there's a certain extent of a lot of this is going to be out of your control because aren't different systems going to interpret the data differently? Like some may just make a decision that I see my last true character as the end of the string and boom, it's done. But others may just say, well, you gave it to me.
Right. Well,
can you pass any character or does it have to be spaces?
Has to be spaces. Well, you've answered the basic question. The answer is no.
I mean, it's not no, it's just semi-uncontrollable.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Way to stump us, Marty.
I know. Sorry.
This is why we love Marty, though. Like you've got some awesome questions.
I saved my hard ones for this one.
I think it just validates that you've exhausted all of your resources and then you stump us and then you're like, nope, yep, I looked everywhere.
That's exactly right.
All right.
Exactly. Last resort.
All right, Susan, what's your question? You might have to unmute yourself.
Oh.
There you are.
Hi, Susan.
Yeah, I'm excited. I never get to ask a question. I have a dependent pick list with lots of values, like 500 values. Is there a way, you guys were talking about data loading and it got me thinking, is there a way that you know of to import in dependent pick lists that matrix? I know a way to export it. There's a Google plugin, but I don't know of a way to import it.
I mean, if you have access to an IDE or DX or anything like that where you can manipulate the XML, once you have the structure, it's easy to play with, but I mean, you're in metadata land at that point.
Right.
And I assume it's the dependencies themselves that you're trying to load, right? It's not the list. It's like how they connect.
Yes. Yeah. The dependencies.
Yeah, you're definitely in metadata land at that point. I mean, like I loved Eclipse for those kinds of things because it was so easy to just take the XML file in a text reader or even Excel. You could manipulate the spacing and all that kind of stuff, and we don't have that anymore. I mean, if you've played around with any lightweight DX, it's still the same thing. You've got XML files that if you can take that, load it as a text file into Excel, and if you have a couple of dependencies already created to get familiar with what the structure is that you're looking for, you can then replicate that and insert it back into the XML file and force it back in. Does that make sense?
It does. I haven't seen any metadata around that, which is surprising. It seems like it should exist.
Hmm.
And I didn't dig too deeply into it, but I was wondering if anyone had run into that before.
No, unfortunately, I think we've all been stuck with the job of manually clicking it into existence and wish there was a tool to do it.
I know it's painful. Like we've all just, I think, kind of suffered through it. But I feel like there's got to be a way.
Susan?
Yeah, I feel like there should be a way.
So if I'm following the question, Susan, you're asking if I had a list of pick lists in a spreadsheet, could I bring those pick lists, those values into the field?
No, actually, it's the dependencies. So there's that dependency matrix.
It's the relationship between
Got
the
it.
second pick list and the first pick list.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
There's a tool out there that lets you export them, but I don't
I saw
believe-
that, yeah.
Yeah, and I've used it, but I don't believe you can use it to re-import like a changed dependency. Not aware of that.
Someone needs to get
Right.
on that. It's a product. There's
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Could
an
be a
app for that.
great Einstein edition, probably.
For
Look at
sure.
how many unique values in a pick list dependency.
Has anybody, so I still have Workbench up. Has anybody played around with that on the metadata, like on the object listing or the metadata to know if something can be imported in like that?
I don't know. I think we all just hit a wall, but if anyone has anything, post it up in Success Community for sure.
Yeah, we tend to export all of ours to our to Git or to TFS, and then we play with it there. So you'd be our explorer extraordinaire on this one, Dale.
All right, Marty, you still have your hand up. Are you good? Or do you have another
No,
question?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you very much.
Susan, I don't know, you've got a lot of brains. I can hear them. They're all chugging along through the gears right now. And I know we didn't give you a solution, but we did answer your question.
Yeah, that kind of the general shrug of that's a good one is not the answer we were hoping for. Before I forget to, Marty, did you see Jade posted an idea and Stuart posted a good link from Louise Lockey about Workbench for anyone who's interested in learning more?
Thanks.
I have a random question for Rob about his earlier question. Sorry, let me introduce myself.
Stuart, save the time. No introduction needed.
Yeah,
Go for it.
if I understood, you were having problems getting all your data to migrate over into your sandbox.
Well, it's a partial anyway, so I was never
Partial.
expecting all of it, but I would have thought that it would have kind of like done kind of a well-spread sampling and said to itself, okay, I see, 8,000 of this kind of account, but I see 40 of this kind of account.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure I get a sample of each type. It didn't do that.
I have a solution that you're probably maybe not going to like this answer, but I've used this tool and I love it. GearSet. I've used this and it will help you populate sandboxes, and it does exactly this. So you can choose the parent, and then it will help you to bring in all the children records from that parent or set of parents. It does a really good job of that, but it is an additional tool that you have to find, but it's an excellent tool.
Thank you. Good suggestion. I'll look for it.
And everyone loves your Imperial Destroyer Officer's Bridge background, it sounds like.
Yes, it's a fun one, but I liked Chris's better because he was doing the self-promotion thing, which I think is kind of part of what we do here in the Ohana.
Oh yeah.
If I were logged in as my Zoom account, not office hours, I'd throw some of mine up, but we'll save those for a future call.
Nice. Thanks, Dale.
Think Pulp Fiction.
Oh, geez. Did we get everybody? Oh, wait. Shakira?
Is she back?
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
she's
back.
I'm back. I'm
so
not sure we'll
glad.
have enough time. Thank you for getting to me. I appreciate it. My question is, I'm helping with an org that uses opportunity products. And the way that they use it is whenever there is a potential or a possibility for a customer to have a multi-year agreement, they add a product 3 times and to distinguish the year that that product applies for. And so it's not allowing us to correctly utilize the amount field because, okay, let me back up. We use ACV, and because we use ACV, the amount calculates all of the opportunity product line items. And because the process is to add a line item for every single year that that contract is in existence, it's giving us TCV. Is there a way to get around that by some other functionality, or are we just kind of in a crux that we're not going to be able to use the opportunity field?
Are you using opportunity products?
Yes.
Line items?
Yes.
Do you use contracts?
No. And we don't have CPQ.
So it sounds to me like your company is currently and I think I've got this right. Your company is using a single opportunity for a multi-year agreement, and instead of maybe having a separate opportunity for like cloning the opportunity for year 2 and 3, they're just adding the line item product again and again.
Correct.
Without having like a start date and an end date on those, or that's going to be really hard, or identifying what kind of year. And I don't think you can do like separate roll-ups for that.
Isn't this what entitlements are used for? I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I had one.
I'm not friends with entitlements. Is someone friends with entitlements?
Entitlements more on the service side.
Yeah, I thought
Right.
entitlements. Did you mean assets?
No, I just was thinking like being able to, align a time frame to each line item without actually having line items is what I was thinking. I apologize. Threw it out there because I was hoping that I was even close. I need to look up entitlements again. I thought there was a feature in Opportunity already that handled this exact need.
Like a subscription of sorts, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that this is the right way to handle this, but in my past life, with the company I used to work for, we would actually like create another opportunity. And so I know someone had mentioned contracts and using that start date, end date feature, because without this is actually a really great CPQ use case.
I agree.
Warning, Will Robinson.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to like listen through this. I'm like, oh, this is a really great CPQ case. But there's other ways to work around it, right? And is it a subscription product sort of that your company works with?
It is a subscription product. And so I was looking at revenue schedules, and thank you. I think that was Chris that posted that, or somebody posted that. Stuart, thank you. And I was looking at that as an option as well. I'm just trying to get my users to understand that that's crippling other parts of the system, that process. And so I'm trying to find another workaround before I tell them that we need to change it.
Yeah, there's that's definitely you're definitely, the system is definitely being crippled with this, this hack, right? So, Brianna, I think you meant to post to everybody, but you had suggested maybe having an opportunity parent and then group individual opportunities from the different years. That's exactly how my former company worked that. You know, they would have the initial opportunity with the product, and then they would clone it and parent it, you know, parent-child it.
Are you getting, right now you're only getting TCV and you're wanting to get ACV? Is that the question?
The question is, we use ACV, and I need to have the amount field reflect ACV. And right now, the amount field reflects TCV.
Okay. Yeah, I ran into this as well. Basically, I created like a custom amount field, and basically took the total amount and divided by the total months of the contract. Could something like that work?
The challenge that I have is, because we're looking at Salesforce forecasting, I need to use the native amount field.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that adds a wrinkle. I
Yeah.
think you now have to start cloning your opportunities, don't you? I mean, that if you're using forecasting, you have to separate those line items into opportunities.
Yeah.
Right, because you won't get the dates. The dates won't be right unless you, you know, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, you'd have to use something Salesforce native. You'd have to use installments, or you have to clone them, or something.
Okay.
Installments, right? Yes, installments.
I mean, installments is the non CPQ way of doing CPQ, but you're very limited about what you can customize with it.
And that's the same thing for opportunity splits, correct? That I'd be in the same situation. Okay.
Yeah, you're limited to what, especially if you're going to use forecasting, then you're stuck in the box of what Salesforce will allow you to do.
Well,
Okay.
it's the free version.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Maybe something with schedules might work as well. If you might want to play with that if you haven't yet. So the schedule for one, the next product is year 2. See if that gets you closer to what you're looking for.
But the forecasting is still going to drive from opportunity total, right? Regardless of the scheduling of payment.
Yes, but you might be able to set the amount to go on a different schedule.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely relying on the amount field. Yeah, I think it's opportunities that are related to each other.
Yeah, especially if you use that forecasting object. Now, if you do forecasting reporting, I mean, you might be able to put in custom fields, but if you're using that forecasting object, then I think you're limited.
Okay. I appreciate it.
All right. Let's see, Mike, you're all set, right? And
Yeah. No, I have another one. I can go again.
You have a question? Let's hear it.
Well, following up on Shakira, speaking of forecasting and the forecasting object, it tends, I'm going to volunteer it, I find it to be a tad rigid, especially the top half of that screen where I might want to put more information up there, but I can't. What other options are available to do forecasting as a use case? On the forecasting object on the top half of the screen, we can get the forecast categories and we can get the amount field, and we can use splits or full opportunities. But my use case is we have quotas, which we can use that. But in addition to having a quota, we also have a target field called pipeline, which is what the rep should have in their pipeline on a given month, in addition to that closed one quota number. And any other, without bad mouthing Salesforce, are there other tools that might be useful for that?
Steve Moe.
Okay. Are you suggesting that it's going to be a reporting as opposed to which I'm all in favor of, because I'm an admin. I don't do Visual Force pages. I don't do Lightning components. So yeah, reporting would be a better way to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Steve do a lot of different workshops on how to use formulas and build out reports and dashboards on specifically on forecasting and looking at this month versus previous month versus previous year. It's sort of fascinating, but it's the poor admin's way to do Einstein.
Okay.
But it's fascinating and it works, and I'll see if I can find something on here that would help give you direction.
That'd be super, but I can poke around. But just give me that general direction, and I'll. Steve's pretty visible.
Indeed.
Thanks.
Well, I think we are at time. So as much as we enjoy this, I think we have to let everybody get to their next meetings. Unless there's anything else, Dale, you wanted to touch on?
No, if you have a chance, check out Virtual Dreamin' this weekend. A couple of weeks ago, we heard registration was up to 8,000 with a goal of maybe 15. So check it out. It's supposed to be good stuff.
Yeah, the list of sessions and the speakers is impressive. If you can even take an hour out of your day to do something, I think it'll be worth it.
And be well, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Everybody stay healthy.
Dale, before you cancel,